I did not expect my daughter to look me in the eyes on her wedding day and tell me I should be grateful she even invited me. But that is exactly what happened, and it happened before I even had the chance to take my seat. My name is Marlene Bishop, 70 years old last spring, and I have spent my entire life believing that if I loved hard enough, I would always have a place beside my daughter. But the moment I stepped into St. Helena's historic chapel in Charleston, I felt something shift. An usher glanced at the guest list, then at me, and his voice tightened. "Right this way, ma'am." He walked fast, as if embarrassed by the destination he was guiding me toward. We passed the rows of decorated chairs, the aisle lined with white petals, the front section where Thomas, my ex-husband, and his polished wife Camilla were already seated like royalty. Then the usher stopped. "Here," he said softly. The chair sat beside the service doors, where staff rolled carts stacked with used glasses, and where two large gray bins stood half-hidden behind a folding screen. I stared at it, unsure if I should laugh or cry. Before I could speak, Sienna rushed over in her lace gown. Her smile disappeared the moment she saw me hesitate. "Mom, don't start," she whispered sharply. "You should be grateful I even invited you. Please don't make this about you." I felt something inside me go still, completely still. Not anger, not shock. Just a quiet understanding that this moment was the truth I had been avoiding for years. I sat down only long enough to place my purse on my lap. Then I stood, smoothed my dress, and walked out the side door before anyone realized I was leaving. No scene, no words, no goodbye. I reached the parking lot, closed my car door, and let the silence settle around me. Walking away did not break me. What happened afterward? That was what finally did. And as I drove home alone, I already knew this was the last time my daughter would ever decide where I sat in her life. When I drove away from the chapel, I kept seeing Sienna's face from years ago, the little girl who used to reach for my hand when traffic lights changed, as if my touch alone could keep the world steady. That girl felt so far from the woman who told me I should be grateful for a wedding invitation. After the divorce, it was just the two of us in a small downtown Charleston apartment with thin walls and a rattling air conditioner that never quite cooled the place. Thomas moved to Atlanta within months. He called when he remembered and sent child support when he felt pressured to, often weeks late. During those years, I worked the late shift at the Charleston Public Library. I shelved books until closing, locked the doors, and walked home past families sitting on porches talking about their lives. When money tightened, I took a second job cleaning houses in West Ashley. I tried to hide that part from Sienna, but children see everything. One afternoon, she came home from school, cheeks red and eyes swollen. "What happened?" I asked while setting down the grocery bags. "Someone in class said their housekeeper saw you," she muttered. I tried to smile. "There's nothing wrong with honest work. I know," she whispered. But she looked at the floor instead of at me. She was 12 when that happened. 12, and already learning that love does not protect you from embarrassment. Still, I kept showing up. Every school play at Burke High School, no matter how long my shift had run, every doctor visit, every swim meet at the JCC Aquatic Center where she stood shivering in her goggles, looking for me in the bleachers. And every time she saw me, she smiled like I had just made the world right again. Once, after a meet she lost badly, she buried her face in my shoulder and said, "Mom, you're my home." I have held on to that line for decades. Through every storm life sent our way. I held it even as I realized she no longer knew what those words meant. I first noticed the shift when Sienna started saying Camilla told me, more often than Mom. What do you think Camilla Bishop, Thomas's new wife, was everything I was not polished. Wealthy, effortlessly graceful. She hosted charity brunches in her immaculate white dresses and moved through Charleston's social circles like she had been born into them. One evening, Sienna called while I was folding laundry. Mom, Camilla thinks pale roses would be better for the centerpieces. She said, I tried to keep my voice steady. I thought you loved sunflowers. Well, they're not elegant, she answered. A tone in her voice I had never heard before. People expect a certain look. The people she referred to arrived soon enough. Margaret and Lionel Hale. Grayson's parents, old Charleston money with deep family roots and impeccable manners. When they hosted Sienna for dinner, she came back speaking softly, sitting straighter, correcting her own vocabulary. They want me to join the Hale Foundation's Young Professionals group, she said proudly one afternoon. That sounds nice, I replied. It is, she said, then added in a careful voice. Camilla says I fit in well with them. The words lingered. I knew what she meant, even if she did not say it. Weeks later, Sienna called again. Mom, could you help with the catering bill? It came out higher than expected. I agreed before she finished the sentence. By the following weekend, I overheard Margaret telling someone, Poor thing. Sienna's mother cannot contribute much financially. I felt the sting before I even processed the lie. Sienna had never corrected them. When wedding plans picked up, I soon realized I had not been included in a single meeting. Camilla stepped in so smoothly that the planners addressed her as Mother of the Bride without hesitation. I smiled through it, but inside, something dimmed. For the first time, I felt like a ghost standing beside my own child, visible only when someone else needed something from me. The night before Sienna's wedding, Charleston felt unusually quiet. I told myself it was nerves. But deep down I knew it was something heavier, like the air had already decided what tomorrow would become. And I was the last one refusing to accept it. I didn't get an invitation to the rehearsal dinner at the Mills House Hotel. I found out about it only because a server called earlier that afternoon to confirm dietary needs. Oh, I'm not attending, I said. There was a pause. Your daughter asked us to reserve a seat for her two moms. He replied casually. My throat tightened. Two moms? Yes, ma'am. Mrs. Bishop and Mrs. Camilla Bishop. He said it like it was the most natural thing in the world. I thanked him and hung up. But the room felt smaller after that. Camilla had officially taken my place. Not by accident, not by misunderstanding, by design. I pressed my dress for the next day with careful hands, smoothing each wrinkle as though it would keep the memories from unraveling. The dress was soft blue. The color Sienna used to say looked nice on me. I reheated leftovers and sat alone at my kitchen table. Rehearsing a short speech, I hoped I would get the chance to say, I'm proud of you, Sienna. I always have been. I whispered it into the empty room, imagining her smile from years ago. The little girl who clung to my arm would have understood. The woman she had become felt like a stranger wearing my daughter's face. Ruby called around 8. Are you ready for tomorrow? She asked. As ready as I can be. I said, Marlene, don't let them humiliate you. She warned gently. Promise me you won't let them treat you like an outsider. I hesitated. It's Sienna's day. I just want her to have everything she dreamed of. Ruby sighed, the kind of sigh that carries both love and fear. Just be careful. I promised her I would. But as I hung up the phone, I knew I wasn't prepared for what tomorrow would actually bring. When I got home after walking out of the chapel, I didn't turn on the lights. I sat in my small Mount Pleasant cottage with my hands folded in my lap, staring at nothing. The silence felt heavier than anything anyone had said to me that day. My phone buzzed once. I picked it up, already bracing myself without knowing why. It was from Sienna. You embarrassed me. Be grateful you were allowed to come at all. I read it 3 times. Not because I didn't understand the words, but because I couldn't believe she had written them. My daughter, the same girl who once cried because I missed a parent lunch by 10 minutes, was telling me to be grateful she let me into her life at all. A second later, another notification flashed. Then everything went blank. She had blocked me. Not just my number, every account, every way of reaching her. By evening, Ruby was banging on my door. "Marlene, open up." I let her in. And she took one look at my face. What did she do? I handed her the phone. Ruby read the message and let out a breath through her teeth. "That girl." No, I won't let you blame yourself. Stop apologizing for existing." I walked out. I whispered, "Maybe she thought Ruby cut me off. She put you by the trash bins, Marlene." That was humiliation, not misunderstanding. I opened a drawer and pulled out the old photo albums I had not touched in years. There was Sienna at age 5, grinning with a missing tooth. Sienna at age 12, clutching her science fair ribbon. Sienna at age 18, hugging me after graduation. I traced her face in every picture, my fingertip shaking. I had shown up for every moment, every milestone, every hurt. And still, somehow, it had never been enough. By midnight, something inside me hardened, not anger, but clarity. I realized I could not keep living as the version of myself she expected to step on. The morning after the wedding, before I even finished my coffee, my phone began vibrating nonstop. At first, I thought Sienna had unblocked me, but it wasn't her. It was everyone else. Ruby texted, "You need to see what your daughter just posted." I opened the screenshot she sent. Sienna had written, "Family is who shows up for you, not who walks away when things aren't centered around them." There was no name in the post, but everyone knew who she meant. Before I could process the sting, another screenshot came in, this one from Camilla. She had reposted Sienna's message with a caption, "Some people never learn." I put the phone down, my hand shaking. Camilla was not just replacing me. She was rewriting the story so neatly that people believed her without question. 10 minutes later, my sister Loretta called. "Marlene, what on earth happened yesterday?" she demanded. "You talked to Sienna?" I asked. "She said you caused a scene. She said you walked out and ruined her ceremony. Is that true?" I closed my eyes. I did not say a word. I simply left. "Well, the family is saying you embarrassed her. I don't know what to think," Loretta muttered. "Everyone's talking. They're talking because she wants them to," I said quietly. Loretta sighed. "You should call her. Fix this before it gets worse." "I'm not fixing a lie." I replied, "Marlene, I ended the call before she could finish. Every few minutes, another message came in from a cousin, an aunt, someone Sienna had reached out to. Each one carried the same tone disappointment in me. Sympathy for her. I turned my phone face down on the table. For the first time in my life, I realized staying silent wasn't about protecting Sienna anymore. It was about protecting myself from a story I refused to play a part in. For nearly 1 full year, Sienna and her new husband, Grayson Hale, had been living rent-free in my small duplex in North Charleston. I had handed them the keys with nothing but hope in my chest. They were saving for a down payment. They said they would only stay a few months. They promised. A few days after the wedding, Ruby came by with a look on her face I had seen only a handful of times. "You're not going to like this," she warned. "What now?" I asked, my voice already tired. She showed me a message from someone in Sienna's circle. Apparently, my daughter had been telling her friends for months that they were the ones supporting me, that they let me keep my duplex because they felt bad for how little I had. I sank into my chair. "She said that about me." Ruby nodded. "She thinks you'll never correct her." I realized she was right. I never had. That afternoon, I called the leasing office and requested the proper paperwork. By evening, the 30-day termination notice sat on my dining table, signed and dated. I wrote a short line beneath it. "This home was given in love. You returned it without any..." I drove to the duplex just after sunset, letting myself in with the spare key they never bothered to return. The place was spotless, almost sterile, not a trace of gratitude anywhere in it. I placed the envelope neatly on the granite kitchen counter beside the spare keys. No dramatic note, no warning, just the truth on paper. I was back in my car when my phone rang. Sienna didn't even say hello. "What is this?" she screamed. "You can't kick us out. We just got married." I held the phone away from my ear. "You made me disposable." I said, "I'm simply stepping out of the role you wrote for me." "You're ruining my life," she shouted. "Then build one without me," I replied. I ended the call before she could scream again. The call came early in the morning, before I had even finished my tea. The number was unfamiliar, but the voice was not. "Mrs. Bishop, this is Margaret Hale." For a moment, I almost ended the call, but her tone was different. Strained, careful. "I hope you don't mind me reaching out." She said, I wanted to clarify something. Sienna told us you refused to participate in the wedding planning. She said you were difficult, uncooperative, and uninterested." I pressed the edge of the table with my fingers. "That wasn't true. I know that now," Margaret replied. "We saw the seating chart this morning. I had no idea she placed you near the service doors." If I had known, her voice trailed off. She sounded embarrassed. "She told us you preferred to sit in the back," Margaret continued. "She said you didn't want attention." Hearing it out loud felt worse than living it. "Your daughter misled us," Margaret finally admitted. "And I believe she misled Grayson too." Later that afternoon, Grayson called. His voice was tight, controlled. "Marlene, I'm so sorry," he said. "I had no idea she did that to you." "You don't owe me an apology." I told him. "I do." He insisted. "She told me you wanted that seat. She said you didn't help with anything financially." I stayed silent. And the silence hit him harder than anything I could have said. "We're drowning in bills," he added quietly. "She hid most of it from me. The venue, the vendors, everything." By evening, another blow hit Sienna. A mutual friend leaked the seating chart on social media, highlighted, circled, time-stamped. People immediately noticed the placement. Comments poured in faster than she could delete them. Someone wrote, "Who treats their own mother like that?" Another, "This is cruel. No wonder he walked her down the aisle instead." For the first time, the tide turned. And every lie Sienna had told began collapsing under its own weight. By nightfall, even those who had defended her were suddenly quiet, stepping back as if they did not want to be associated with the story she had created. 2 days after the seating chart went public, there was a frantic knock at my door, sharp, uneven, almost panicked. I knew that knock. I had heard it when Sienna was a child afraid of thunderstorms. When I opened the door, she was standing there with streaked mascara and swollen eyes. "Mom, please." She sobbed, "We need to talk." I stepped outside and closed the door behind me, leaving only a few inches of space between us. "You can talk," I said quietly. "But you're not coming in." She flinched as if I had slapped her. "Why are you doing this?" "We have nowhere to go. Grayson is furious. Everyone online thinks I'm a monster. I can't stay at the duplex when you're kicking us out. Please. Just let me stay here a little while." Her voice shook. Her hands kept rubbing her stomach. When I looked down, I saw the curve, small, unmistakable. "You're pregnant," I said. She nodded quickly. "I was going to tell you after the honeymoon. I thought this would make things better. I thought you'd finally step up like a real grandmother." The words hit me harder than anything she had thrown my way in the past month. "Step up," I repeated softly. "I have stepped up every day of your life." She folded, crying harder. "I need you," she whispered. "Please don't give up on me." I steadied myself. Needing me is not the same as respecting me. "Mom, I messed up. I know I did." "You didn't mess up," I said. "You humiliated me. Lied about me. and treated me like furniture you could push into a corner. Love doesn't mean you get to humiliate me and expect me to stand by. She reached for my arm. I stepped back. Please, she begged. Just let me inside. Just tonight. I can't. I said, not anymore. Sienna's legs seemed to give out. She dropped onto the porch step, burying her face in her hands, crying the way she used to cry after falling off her bike, except this time, I did not kneel beside her. I watched her shoulders shake, then turned and went back inside, closing the door with a final, quiet click that felt like the end of something I had been holding together far too long. I met with my attorney, Mark Sheffield, on a humid Thursday morning in downtown Charleston. His office sat above an old brick cafe, the kind of place where the floors creaked and the walls carried decades of secrets. He greeted me with a quiet nod. Are you sure? Marlene, he asked. This is permanent once it's filed. I've never been more certain, I said. He placed the amendment in front of me, a clean, crisp document that felt heavier than any paper I had ever signed. With one stroke of a pen, Sienna was removed from my will entirely, my home, my savings. Every last thing I had spent a lifetime building would go to the Haven Harbor Women's Shelter, the organization I had volunteered with since my early 50s. When I finished signing, Mark gave my hand a gentle squeeze. You're choosing peace, he said. Peace. I had chased it my whole life. Now, I was finally giving it to myself. 2 days later, Sienna showed up unannounced again. This time, she wasn't crying. She looked furious, wild with disbelief. Grayson said you changed your will, she said, her voice trembling. Tell me he's lying. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me, just as I had before. He's not lying, I said. She stared at me like she didn't recognize who I was. You can't do that to me. I'm your daughter, and I was your mother, I replied, until the day you decided I belonged beside the trash cans. She took a step forward. I said I was sorry. You were sorry you lost the house. I said, not sorry for how you treated me. I held out the notarized amendment. She snatched it from my hand, eyes scanning the lines until she reached the section that sealed it all. This can't be real, she whispered. It is, I said. You didn't lose an inheritance. Sienna, you lost access to the mother who would have given you everything. Her knees buckled. She covered her face, sobbing into her palms. I watched for a moment long enough to know she understood. Then I stepped back inside and closed the door softly. Not out of cruelty, but because I was finally free. If you've ever had to reclaim your worth from someone who took it for granted, tell your story in the comments. And if this chapter spoke to you, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay with us for more real, raw family stories.